I'm expanding my channel. Welcome to Ask the Dough Doctor. I'm your host and baking expert, Chef Colette, and what I'm doing is, instead of just using the channel to repost the show archives, we're going to do some tutorials that are going to make you want to jump up and start baking. The first tutorial we're going to do, blueberry bagels. So let's get started. You can find the recipe and the step-by-step. The link is below. It's on my website at bakingwithcolette.com. This recipe will make 6 blueberry bagels. We're starting with the water and the yeast in the mixer. Let it sit for 5 minutes, and then go ahead and add the rest of the ingredients. We're using bread flour, and then honey, so they're a little sweet, salt, and a little bit of oil. This just helps them be a little bit more extensible. What does that mean? That means easier to roll out and shape. All right, now bagels are a low hydrated dough, and they get a relatively long mix. It's an improved mix for my breadheads out there. We're gonna start on speed 2 for 4 minutes, and then we're gonna go back down to speed 1 for 4 minutes. The blueberries are going in later. Don't worry, they're right here. Because bagels are such a low hydrated dough, the dough doesn't get to clear the side of the bowl very quickly, so don't be surprised. You might have to stop and scrape down the mixer in order for the ingredients to fully incorporate. And then just start back up again. After 4 minutes, the dough is clearing the side of the bowl, but it's not yet developed. So we're going to turn it down to speed 1 and mix for another 4 minutes. And after that, the blueberries are going in. I love to anticipate your questions. So you might be thinking, hey chef, why did we start on speed 2 instead of speed 1? Why did we go backwards? Because if we start on speed 2, then the dough comes together more quickly. And I learned this from one of my baking friends, Michael Colette. So hey, Chef Michael, if you're watching, thank you. All right guys, now the blueberries are going in. They have to be dried blueberries. No fresh, no frozen, no extra water. You'll end up with a mess. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get this dough off the hook. Don't you love this mixer? You guys can see everything. And then I'm gonna dump in half these berries, because if I dump all of them in, they're gonna go everywhere. And let's mix for about 30 seconds. Oh, this mixer is not happy. Okay, so as soon as they clear, we're going to add the rest. And you know what? Get your hands in there and really push them in. Okay? And then we're going to just mix for another just 30 seconds until they're evenly distributed. We can't overmix, which is why we're doing this at the end, because the mixer's going to tear the berries apart. We're going to have a mess. Make sure there's no rogue blueberries in the bottom of the bowl. That was my timer for mixing. Always set a timer for mixing. All right, that's it. So the blueberry bagel dough is done. And now it needs to bulk ferment. It needs to sit in a nice warm place, which the kitchen counter is fine, covered with a piece of plastic wrap so that it doesn't burn the skin for at least an hour until it doubles in volume. This is the first time we're going to get some carbon dioxide activity. Super sexy, that carbon dioxide activity. Take a look, my bakers. The blueberries are beautifully distributed. I'm not going to attack this anymore because I am getting a little bit of bleeding, which is okay. And again, we have to use dried. The other kinds of berries won't work. They make a hot mess. So I'll be back shortly to show you this fully bulk fermented dough. So it's been about an hour and 10 minutes, and the bagel dough is doubled in volume. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to get it out of the bowl and we're going to scale it. Typically, regular sized bagels have a wet dough weight of 113 grams or 4 ounces. You could also just try to divide the dough up into 6 equal portions, but it's better to weigh. It's more consistent. The dough feels great. I'm weighing heavy today. That's all right. You might have a little extra dough left over, and you have 2 choices. You can divide it up between the portions that you have, or you can have like a runt. I'm going to actually go ahead and divide this into 6 equal portions, relatively equal portions, and just add them to my existing bagels. So the next thing we're going to do is pre-shape. I'm going to show you 2 ways to shape bagels. So I'm going to pre-shape 3 into short strands and the other 3 into round balls. So first for the strands. We pre-shape so we get the gluten organized, gluten strands organized. So there's 1, just a rough like a cigar. I don't know if anybody smokes cigars anymore, but we still can remember what a cigar looks like. Three strands, and then 3 balls. Just roughly ball them up, because we'll finesse them in about 7 minutes after the dough, 7 to 10. We don't want the dough to get gassy, but we do want those gluten strands, which are really tight right now, we want them to relax a little bit. Make sure to cover your doughs always so that they don't form a skin. All right, we're ready to shape our bagels. It's important to have your pan prepared either with a piece of parchment paper or a Silpat. If you have parchment paper, you want to very, very lightly spray it. I actually hate spray, but you guys know that. Or really lightly oil it with some clear vegetable oil, because sometimes after boiling, we'll get to that step in a minute, the bagels can stick to the pan. So let's get going. So the bagels pre-shaped have sat for about 10 minutes, and the dough is definitely more relaxed, but it's not gassy. So what we're going to do first, I'm going to show you how to do the strands. I'm just going to de-gas, any gas, there is no gas, but de-gas, press down with the heel of my hand, and then I'm going to tuck and roll these strands, and then I'm going to roll this out to about 12 inches, maybe a little longer. Try to make them as even as possible, even if you have to adjust. And then we're going to cross the ends, twist, pinch, and then seal. Now, one finesse point with this method is that you want to make sure that, watch again, I'm creating a seam, right? Because we have to. But when we place our bagel on the tray, we want to make sure that it's seam side down, otherwise we'll see that seam in our finished bagel. And you see any rogue blueberries, just pick them up and put them back in the dough. So that's a nice even one. Cross. And then we're just going to roll on the work surface, countertop. We're just evening out, evening out the bagel. And again, rogue blueberries, just pop them in, press them into the dough. And here's that seam. You see that seam? See that seam? All right, that goes on the bottom. Great. I'll finish these up, but first I want to show you how to shape a bagel from a round, and then we'll get on to the next stage. So you just have your little round, and this is super easy. You can do this version with kids. They love it. Stick your finger into the center of the bagel till it comes out the other side, and then put 2 fingers in and roll. Roll, roll, roll. Throw blueberries everywhere because it's fun. And if you're uneven, like I'm thin here, I'm fat here, I'm going to work the chunkier portion out so that the weight is evenly distributed. And you can kind of finesse it with your hands as well. You know, you can stretch it. You're not going to hurt it. So once you get them all shaped, however your desired shaping method was, cover them and let them sit at room temperature for 15 minutes, and then pop them in the fridge covered so they don't form a skin for a minimum of 2 hours and a maximum of 4. All right, everyone, we're back and we're ready to boil the bagels. So the bagels have been in the fridge for about 3 hours. That was after a 15-minute proof at room temperature, then in the fridge to retard. And that's a really important step because we want our bagels nice and cold when they hit the boiling water. Now in the water is 2 quarts of water, 50 grams of honey, and 12 grams of baking soda. And that will ensure that our bagels get a beautiful caramelized crust. Now we want the water to be at a rolling boil, and you need to have like a slotted spoon or a spider or something to get them out of the water. All right, we're just about ready to go. The bubbles are breaking the surface, and there's a very important thing to do before you drop them in the water. Typically, with this pot, I boil 2 at a time. So what's important is we need to reopen the center hole. And the way we do that is before we drop them in the water, roll gently on your fingers, your index and middle fingers, and then drop in. They're going to boil for 30 seconds on each side. You can count, you can time, whatever works for you. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. you see them puff up, so then you just want to flip them. And they actually begin to proof in the water as they're boiling. Just the very beginning, right there. I mean, they've proofed a little bit, but things are happening in the water, is what I'm trying to say. So again, we have about 20 more seconds. I won't count out loud this time. And then usually, before I pull them out, I just dunk them again, just to make sure we have some really nice shine on the surface. And here's a tip. As you take them out of the water, put the slotted spoon on a diagonal to drain excess water. Now you know what? I might be able to get 3 in here. Let me try. And in. All right. Now the oven is set at 450 degrees, and these are going to bake for approximately 15 to 20 minutes. Now that may seem hot to you, but bagels need a really hot, quick bake, and that helps with the crust caramelizing and the insides being so nice and chewy. So I'll fish this one out, I'll pop them in the oven, and then I'll be back to show you the bake. It's hard to buy bagels that look like this unless you live in New York or Montreal or just happen to have a great bagel shop down the street. These are baked to perfection. They are beautiful. They smell amazing. And it was 17 minutes at 450 in my oven. But remember, everybody's oven is different. Golden brown, a rich golden brown, that's what we're looking for. And I'm going to whip up a honey cream cheese because I think that makes a perfect pairing, and I'll include that recipe on the website as well. And that link is below.